Mission planning on FlyFreely Field App is a breeze. You've got a couple of options. You can go from the mission section from the plus sign at the center of the screen between drafts and missions, or you've got the option down here to select the map. When selecting the map, you've got the airspace rules checker. So if I select a point, so I can choose my location, I can then view what the airspace rules checker applies. So under excluded category rule set, 400 feet height, 50 meter radius, and the date and time that's been automatically populated, I've passed 10 of the 11 rules. So I can check what they advise. I've got a danger area. I can view the rule set. So the only caveat is you need to have access to data or Wi-Fi to access the airspace rules checker. Now, uniquely, as we are also a drone management platform and a CASA-approved airspace provider, I can directly plan from the airspace checker results. So by default, it's going to select the name of the location, so the street name here. I can then proceed down under resources for commercial. These are my pre-configured workflows. I'll select the excluded category. I can select RPA. It's automatically selected myself as the remote piloting command. I can add additional crew. It's pre-populated the date, time, and the length of flying as part of this mission, which is great. So that saved me further time. I can add an additional emergency contacts radio frequency in my area. And if I had any pre-mission planning checklists or forms, they would be presented in the documents area. So as part of this workflow, there's nothing that I need to fill out at this time. So I'll go straight into Fly. So from here, I'm in execution phase of my mission. So I'll swipe to activate. Now the first form that we notice here, it's a grey box form. So this means that it's a required form. I can't proceed to the next mission stage until I've actually read and acknowledged whatever the rule sets are here. So these are totally configurable and customizable. What we've done is we've interpreted the standard operating condition rules and applied these as you must not, and you may. But it's at the company's discretion whether you would like to have these rules applied or not. So from here, I'll swipe to start pre-flight configuration. Now over here, it's automatically selected the pilot, the aircraft, and I just need to select the battery set to proceed. So if I needed to add another pilot, if the pilot was not added to my mission planning, I can create a flight record by selecting Add Unlisted. And what I can do for people, I can also do for aircraft as well and add an unlisted entry there. So what I'll do is I'll go into batteries. So if I chose reconcile later, this tends to be a popular option for those that have set up their flight logging on FlyFreely. So if you use a cloud sync, the flight log will actually override the information that you're selecting over here. Alternatively, I can add unlisted if the battery set doesn't exist in my organization, or I can simply select from an option that's available in my list here. As part of my pre-flight checklist of forms, as we can see, we've got a couple of options here. So these are actually set against the RPA workflow, which is very unique. So it's not on the mission workflow. It's whenever I select the M210, either of these forms will appear. Once again, totally customizable. So this is an example of a very simple yes/no type checklist or form. And then I've got another option here, which is more detailed. So each of those red field indicators just shows that it's a required field and must be completed before I can complete the form. So I've got some drop-down options, I've got some text fields, checkboxes, and I've even got options over here for customizable or on-condition field entry. So as these two forms are optional, it's not mandatory for me or required for me to fill these out to proceed to the next mission stage. So I can start the flight timer. By doing so, I'm going to create a flight record. At this point, this is when I would switch across to the flight control app. Once I've concluded all of my flying, I will land the craft. I will then come back into FlyFreely and I will swipe off. I've got a post-flight checklist which I can review. And then I've captured my first flight record. So for Android users or for DJI Smart controllers, because FlyFreely is on the same device that you are using the flight control app as well on the smart controller, we've got the unique ability to pull the flight log directly from the device offline. If you apply that method of flight log capture, so we call it side loading, the flight log will actually appear within flight number 1 in this grey section here. So that's an indication to you that we've correctly extracted or imported the flight log direct from the device. So that bypasses the need to have to reconcile once you're back in the Office app, which is one of the methods for the Cloud Sync options and applies for Apple devices. So I've got the option to select the green button. I can choose to fly again if I was simply changing over the batteries, or if I've concluded all of my flying, I can simply go to End Now. And at the end of my mission, because we generated a flight record against a particular RPA, I've got the option to select Unserviceable. So if for whatever reason I damaged the craft, it wasn't serviceable, I've got some quick response and more detailed options to select from. Or I can go to Serviceable and have my serviceability declaration. So now the mission is completed. And next time I gain access to data or Wi-Fi, it will automatically sync so I can reconcile back in the Office app. There's some additional functionality that recently came out onto FlyFreely. This was to help chief remote pilots or SRPs that are required to go out into the field to execute missions to keep on top of very standard missions that are being submitted. So to essentially perform mission approvals whilst we're out in the field. So this has been added to our field app. And so if I go into the section here, so go to menu and go to CRP tools, but I can view any of the missions that have been submitted. So I can view here. I can go through the mission planning details that have been submitted. And I've even got the option to view the JSA. So if I was happy with all of the information, I can then go to the approval screen. I can add any approval conditions. I can add in a maximum height of 400 feet and I can message to a remote pilot. Once again, using FlyFreely's very simple airspace rules checker traffic light system. Red is a block, yellow is an advise, but I can still fly, and green is good to go. So I can see on the indicator here it's yellow, so I can fly conditionally. So with this approval process, because we have SRPs within our organization, the CRP can impose any particular approval checks. So by doing so, they're fulfilling all of the requirements that they would typically be checking or assessing against before they perform the approval. So we approve on that basis. Now that pilot will receive the approval and they're good to go and execute.